Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Loan Officer Life, Hustle, Heart, and Home Ownership. I am excited to have a returning guest, Rebecca Richardson. Rebecca, thanks for coming back to my podcast, but the first time under this logo.
For sure. No, I like it. I like it. Thanks for having me back.
I think the first time you and I did this together, gosh, it's probably going on almost 3 years.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, we've done a few. And it'll sound weird, but back back then when we were doing this whole idea of mortgage loan officers on social media becoming influencers was kind of like, is this really a thing? Well,
Right.
clearly it is, right?
Right.
Clearly it is, and we're not necessarily going to teach or train people today on what that looks like. I'm most curious because you've been at this as long as anybody. What have you seen change in this social media strategy specifically for loan officers in the last 12 to 18 months?
I think the biggest thing is just loan officers seeing the value of it. That, it doesn't, I mean, I think a lot of times when people think, oh, okay, you're going to leverage social media for your business, that you have to have thousands and tens of thousands of followers and do it at scale and all this kind of stuff. And because of the way that a lot of the algorithms have changed, you don't. So I like that because it makes it more accessible for loan officers to, experiment with social, right? Dip their toe in, start to get consistent or get that consistency and then start to see results. Because if you're more specific and targeted about who you're talking to or the problems that you solve or, really good at storytelling, it really doesn't matter how many followers you have because what you're doing essentially is creating you're kind of the digital mayor, this little corner, of
Yeah.
the world, whether it's a topic or whether it's your city or you're part of the city or whatever it may be. That sometimes it does, and a lot of times, and what we hope is that it results in somebody saying, hey, directly, I want to work with you, right? Like, I've been watching you for 6 months, I've been watching you for a year, will you do my mortgage? That's the most kind of direct way to get business from social. But there's also sort of this fuzzy ROI aspect to it that there is in a lot of marketing.
Yeah.
But just from the standpoint of then when you're posting with intention, with some specifics of, again, who you're trying to reach or what areas you cover or whatever the case may be, then, people know who you are. And so they might not say, hey, I'm reaching out because of Instagram, but the next time that maybe a buyer is working with a realtor, the realtor's seeing your content and they're like, oh, I know them,
Right.
and so it's there's nothing new under the sun, right? There's just sometimes different ways of doing it. And it's the whole know, like, and trust principle. And I know we've talked about this because we're big believers in this, but it's also the power of meeting clients at point of thought, meeting them
Yeah.
really early in the process when they're just trying to build up that knowledge base, versus point of sale, and essentially you're getting reduced to your rate and your price.
Yeah.
So when you're meeting people earlier in the process, then it does give you that time to, again, for them to know, like, and trust you. And when you have a solution, when you have very clear passion for how you can help people, it's a pretty magical thing because again, it's that one to many um, type type outreach too, which is powerful.
Right. I I think about social for loan officers specifically today, I guess the same way I would have thought about a loan officer having their own landing page or web presence, so to speak, maybe 2, 3 years ago. Not so much focused on lead gen, but on validation, right? Like,
Right.
you can't be in business. I don't care what the business is if you don't have a website. People are going to
Right.
go check you out. And
Right.
I think social has almost become the same today.
Mhm.
Can you really be a loan officer if you're not on social?
You can. I think that you're making it harder on yourself, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be the only thing that you do. There's still very much the value of in person, one-on-one or client appreciation or realtor appreciation or whatever the case may be, maintaining obviously that one-to-one connection. Nothing replaces that, but it's also time and energy intensive. And
Right.
so from the standpoint of being able to attract business, be able to have that personal branding and have a little bit of kind of the omnipresent marketing, right? Where you're doubling your efforts. You seem like you're everywhere, but it's more from a standpoint of social, and again, being targeted of who you're trying to reach. It's just a really good complement because it's always out there marketing for you versus, again, kind of the one-to-one labor intensive calling past clients, calling your realtors.
So I guess I'll say you're one of the OGs in this space, right? um, like if you think about the last 3 years and really like the last, let's just say like the last 6 months,
Mhm.
how much traffic how much lead gen do you get organically based on the amount of content you put out there,
Mhm.
absent the followers are, they're gonna quote unquote follow, but just because you put out so much content for so long, I mean, there's got to be like, there just has to be leads that pop up that you had no idea were ever going to pop up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right now it's I haven't done my July analysis just yet. I'm kind of weird about my data, so I tend to be right on it, but I haven't done July. Um, But in general, social accounts for about a third of my business. So, and on average right now, on top of doing the speaking and the coaching and learning development and all that kind of stuff, I'm still producing. So I'm still out in the field. I'm still an operator,
Yeah.
like all the other, like a lot of your listeners. And so I'm averaging right around 2 million a month, and a third, again, kind of month in, month out. Once it averages out, about a third comes from social. And then the other third comes from realtors and previous clients and other, contacts. And so social also supports that from kind of
Sure.
that fuzzy ROI standpoint,
Yeah.
but directly as far as like how they find me. I would say what I've seen the change, or kind of where I feel like things are going with social over the last 6 months, um, really returning back to kind of early TikTok days, early reels, where the content is a little bit more raw. It's
Mm.
you can absolutely shoot from your phone. That's why I call my classes social made simple. Like, you do not need to overcomplicate this. You do not
Yeah.
need a ton of equipment. You do not need to overthink it. You just need to get started and not procrastinate through preparation. But doing videos that you're it's like you're talking to a friend on FaceTime and you're telling them a story of what happened with this closing, or this really cool thing that you learned, or explaining, the latest news headlines, right? Like, I like that because it lowers the bar a little bit, that people don't have to have this full, like, they're like, okay, so I'm supposed to figure out what I'm going to say, be the talent, shoot it, edit it,
Yeah.
optimize it. It's a lot, right? And so there are good resources that are out there in the marketplace to help with that. But two, you don't have to have it at this like production level quality, because subconsciously, a lot of people, I mean, they're not getting on social to learn about 30 years of debt, right? That's not very sexy. It's not exciting. It's frankly kind of scary, but we are a means to an end. And we don't want them to skip over this process, because we know the impact that it can have when they make smart choices, when they have the information to really have a good solution for their situation, versus being, shoehorned into whatever is convenient for the loan officer. So being able to kind of balance that and just present it as a person to person does help. But it's being able to personalize it. So again, it doesn't feel like an ad. So that's one thing that I see. And then I'm also seeing a lot more, I mean, in my own performance, and frankly, kind of what the type of social that I'm consuming is more quiet content. Right. So I think we've been on Zoom for
Yeah.
years now. We get on social and people are yapping in our face, telling us this or telling us that. And it can be kind of overstimulating at the end of the day. It's not very relaxing, right? So I'm seeing more people lean towards, or at least, more engagement with the stuff where you maybe have a carousel on Instagram and you've got either pictures, in a series telling a story, or
Yeah.
you've got, kind of the sort of infographics, not sorry, corporate marketing departments, y'all do an amazing job marketing the company. That's not what I'm talking about for loan officers, right? Like, you want to have your own personal brand and have your own kind of flavor of things. And that can just be words. That can just be explaining the concept, but it's where people can flip through and read it. Or you have a picture that then is telling a personal story in the caption, of the post, that works really well on Facebook or Instagram. Threads, blogging is making a comeback, like, who knows? Maybe we're back in the early 2000s. We've just done a loop.
Yeah,
But I am seeing that as an opportunity for maybe people who are a little bit more camera shy to dip their toe in of bringing that personal aspect, into
yeah.
their professional life because they can share a picture versus having to feel like they have to be on camera or instantly know how to do all all the things for video. You can find a picture of your first house and talk about what that meant to you personally, not the mechanics of it. Don't talk about product, like it's not what we're always trying to do. Tell a story, humanize the process so they can again know, like, and trust you.
I love that. I did a post. It's probably been over a year now, maybe a year and a half, and it was I found a picture of the first home that my wife and I bought, and I was literally like wearing a tie dye T-shirt that I got in Jamaica from our honeymoon like the year before, and
Right.
I was demoing our kitchen, right? So I had like
Right.
just ripped off like the old cabinets, and we had I remember this. The kitchen had these ugly red tiles. Sorry, anybody out there that has a kitchen with red tile countertops. Um, and I was, smashing it. And that picture, and I basically just, put that picture up and said, who else remembers their first home and the pride you had of home ownership, especially if you were doing what I was doing in this picture, renovating and improving it. That
Right.
that that post like blew up more than anything else I ever did because it was, to your point, it was very personal. It was a storytelling type post. Um, it wasn't me on video. It was just a static image,
Yeah.
and I wrote a thoughtful post on that. And so I love I love how you describe the quiet content. That's
Mhm.
such a that's a cool way to kind of describe what you're seeing out there.
I
So
think it's a
you're
good balance, right? Because the power of video because
yeah,
the brain registers video almost like being in person, right?
right.
But it didn't have to be all that you have to do, and that's where it's like a little bit of like an on-ramp,
Yeah.
to digital marketing, to personal branding. If quiet content is that on-ramp for you, now is a great time to start experimenting with it.
Yeah, I still think video is important
Mhm.
because you're showing up and people are. I mean, I look up people on LinkedIn. That's my go-to. If I'm
Right.
just meeting somebody for the first time, like through an email or a text, I don't Google them anymore. I go to LinkedIn and I look them up on LinkedIn. And so
Sure.
I'm going to scroll and look for some of their most recent content. And I'll be honest, I love when there's video because it's like, okay, now I know what this person sounds like. I can start to kind of, paint a picture
Absolutely.
of who they are. And I think borrowers are doing the same thing. Prospective borrowers, partners, real estate partners, other referral partners are definitely doing the same thing. So I do think putting yourself out there on video is important,
Mhm.
but you still have to be comfortable with ultimately the content that you put out.
Yeah, it's good just to have the variety.
So you're doing a lot of coaching, right? You're
Mhm.
taking on an expanded role at your company as well. Like as you're coaching and working with new loan officers that are just starting this process, what's the first thing that you're helping them overcome? Is it just fear?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's fear. I think it's sometimes self-doubt. I mean, I feel like for anybody that does a fair amount of content, it's a little bit of like exposure therapy of learning. It's like this is what I look like, this is what I sound like. I like who I am, like I have an opinion. I believe in my opinion. So sometimes it's a little bit of that. But honestly, a lot of it, and that's why I think sometimes it's like having this cookie cutter, kind of process or this cookie cutter approach to content really doesn't work because it also feels fake, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you message different than I do, but we also are delivering a very similar kind of
sure.
overall message, but the way that we talk about it is different. But people, resonate with us because it's authentic to who we are, right? Like it's one of the great compliments talking to somebody and they're like, "You're exactly how you are in your videos." I'm like,
Thank God.
yeah, thank you. You're like, I don't have a lot of time or interest in being anybody but me, right? So I think a lot of times it's kind of getting it's switching a little bit of that of like I am a mortgage machine. I can talk about all the guidelines. I can talk about all the things, and I can impress you with all of my shiny things that my company offers, for
Yeah.
my business. Those things are cool, but we have to start first with the trust aspect because, you know, getting a home is a high trust experience. It is also something that, we justify with logic, but a lot of times we're deciding with emotion. So people need to feel comfortable and they want to feel that they are somebody to the person that they're working with. So for loan officers that are really starting kind of this down this personal branding, digital marketing road, a lot of it is who are you, right? Like who are you? What are you about? And who are you trying to talk to? So
Mm.
don't try to talk to everybody. We're not trying to like attract the masses. We don't need viral views to leverage social for business. It's who are you trying to reach and how are you telling them why they should pick you? Right. And so sometimes it's a little bit of that soul searching of it's like, oh, right. There is a personal aspect to this. And it's not just like talking about your dogs and your home life and whatever kind of stuff, but it's like what do I enjoy in this job? Who do I most enjoy serving and why do I enjoy serving them? Why is it important to me? And learning that right there is important content and as much is going to land and have a much bigger impact than talking about the difference between 3% and 5% down conventional MI,
Right.
right? Like there's a time and a place for that, but you got to lead with something a little bit deeper than just kind of the surface level mechanics.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense to me. I still see too many loan officers that first of all, a lot of them are not the ones posting. It's coming from the corporate account. And
Hmm.
guys, come on. No one's paying attention to that stuff, especially when it's pretty evident when a company has a new asset that they release, a new marketing asset. You've just seen 50 of those same posts within the
Right.
first hour.
I'm thrilled to offer. I know everybody is thrilled on LinkedIn. Like,
Yeah. So as you're coaching these LOs, I'm curious how you're helping them overcome, like, especially if they're at a company where maybe it's a little tougher to be have a personal brand versus kind of follow the corporate strategy. Like,
mhm,
I still think there's people don't. I don't think people get mortgages from mortgage companies. They're getting a mortgage from Rebecca, who
right,
happens to be at One Real, right?
right.
And so, you know, I'm just curious how you kind of help loan officers maybe navigate the challenges inside their company, their corporate structure as well.
So for sure, because obviously we don't want to violate any kind of compliance. We don't want to go out there and make promises that we can't keep or give things that are misleading. There's also only so much you can cover in 30 to 45 seconds, right?
Right.
Unless you're doing like a deep dive, there's only so much. So you want to be compliant, you want to be accurate, but you also want to be engaging. Like it's sometimes a tall order. Um, you know, I think a lot of times when we're thinking, we think content, we think social, and we think output in terms of the content that I'm doing. And yes, that is important. Yes, you have to operate within whatever your company's guardrails are. If it's can I put up pictures of what I did this weekend? Can I talk about my dogs? Can I talk about things that aren't mortgage related at all,
Yeah.
then great, factor that in. If it's super, super locked down, the thing that I think a lot of people miss, whether you are in a more restrictive, kind of marketing box or if you're not, is comments are content too. So making sure that you're also giving as much as you're hoping to get in terms of engagement, going out there and like when you see somebody's post, leave a thoughtful comment. You've got realtors that you're, working with or influential, title people in your city or attorneys or whomever it is, engage with their content because people will see what you're saying too. Not just obviously the person that's posting, but people go and read the comments and
Yeah.
never comment, right? Like there's so much lurking going on that I think people forget that a lot of times there are a lot of people that are in the wings that are watching, and you'll never hear from them until they want you to. But being able to engage that way and have the visibility that way is also very valuable because again, it's networking. It
Right.
was they started as social networks. We turned it into social media. I think we're having a little bit of a swing back maybe to the networking aspect and not just everybody kind of putting their ad out there. So remembering to have that engagement in the comments, DM, whatever the case may be. It's a little bit of a slower burn, but it's also then you're being very targeted of what you're engaging with to then prompt that, to prompt that response or prompt that recognition.
I don't know if this is the case on like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, but on LinkedIn now, as a commenter, I can see the impressions that my comment got on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, what is that telling us? If LinkedIn thinks that's an important metric to track, they're clearly the LinkedIn algorithm is going to prioritize those of us who are commenting. Again,
Right.
I haven't noticed that that metric is being shown to a commenter on the other platforms, but it would stand to reason that the algorithms of all the platforms are going to take into account that
Oh, for
level of
sure.
engagement.
For sure. For sure. And that's where storytelling, personal aspects, there's more to say than if you're like, I'm thrilled to announce that we have our newest, greatest, latest
Yeah,
non-QM product, right?
yeah,
Yes, that will be out there to help somebody. Yes, that's good to put out in the marketplace, but the majority of people don't necessarily care until they have a situation that it matters to them. How are you going to tell them that they have a situation that this can help with by telling a story, making it, applicable to real world versus just the metrics and basically kind of how we think about products.
right. You opened up the conversation saying it doesn't matter how many followers somebody has, right? We have what we have. We have our
Yeah.
followers. Those are our people. It's our tribe. And Kyle Draper talks about this. He says you don't need more followers. You just need to engage with your audience, with your tribe, with your
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. It's no different than remembering, like, you have a whole database there. Are you paying attention to past clients? Are you, you know, being available to them? Are you letting them know that you're looking out for opportunities for them? Same thing for your realtors. Like, yes, it is always good to go and attract new business. That is part of what we do, right? But we don't want to do that and sacrifice the business that we already have and not nurture those relationships too, because that would be such a waste to have all the
Right.
energy to bring them in and then be like, ugh, that old thing, it's kind of like riding a bike, it's getting started. And then once you've got the forward momentum to keep that going.
Well, Rebecca, every time we do this, I learn something new. I so appreciate you spending some time with me and sharing again your expertise as one of the OGs of social selling and mortgage to our audience. Anything you want to leave the audience with? How do people best get in contact with you if they want to learn directly from you?
So I'm pretty much the mortgage mentor on all platforms. On some of them, it's the.mortgage.mentor. But if you look up mortgage mentor, if you Google it, you'll find me. Contact me on whatever your favorite platform is. So I'm on all the things, and always like to talk with other people just from a standpoint. They're like, now, how do you do this? Have some resources I can send to help as well. But I would say in parting would just be, it's not too late. Okay. So even, I think a lot of times loan officers are like, oh, everybody's doing this.
Yeah.
That's because that's your feed, right? You're in the business, you're following other people. You probably think that everybody is doing this. Most people aren't. So it is very much still an opportunity to have more visibility in whatever market you want or whatever, kind of however you want to carve out your thing. Again, personal branding also means like, what do you personally want to work with? So it's not too late to get started. And being comfortable with, one, you might suck at it at first. So just be okay with that, right?
You're
We
the
don't
only one that's going to notice that, by the way.
right? We don't need the perfectionism. I promise. I promise. This isn't middle school. Like, let's move on, guys. So it's being comfortable with not being great at it and being willing to put in the reps so you can get more comfortable, and also being willing to be consistent. So yes, it's very powerful. Yes, it has a great ROI. Yes, it's one to many and doubles your energy that you put into it and all those kind of things, right? But it is work. So
Yeah.
it's making sure that you're putting in that time, consistently posting, I would say 2 to 3 times a week for 6 months. Like, give yourself that time before you say, ah, this doesn't work,
Right.
right? Because it's through that experimenting, it's through the trying, it's through the execution that you're going to get better and you will get results.
Love that. I'm going to put you on the spot. I
Yeah.
have a curiosity question, and
Yeah.
do you have a transaction, a consumer, a closed loan that you can think about where your engagement with that particular person started 12 months, 18 months, 36 months before they actually transacted.
Oh, for sure. I mean, because yes, I mean, that happens all the time. I mean, one, I think just because this market, it's a longer sales cycle.
Yeah.
So I think mentally being prepared for that, not trying to just force people. I preach that a lot from the standpoint of like start early.
Yeah.
It's I mean, the value of just the financial literacy, the visibility of being able to say, hey, I'm not gonna make this scary for you. This isn't pressure. We can do a soft credit pull. I just want you to have the information so you have more time to make smart decisions to put yourself in a strong position. That's where it comes down to. So I track everything obsessively, my
Yeah.
CRM and spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff. And it's fascinating sometimes for me to see like, okay, somebody went under contract and I'll go back and I'll look and it was like initial contact 2 years ago, 18 months ago, 9 months ago. It's like, as long as when you once you start putting it out there, right, you might not see the fruits of your labor tomorrow, you might not see them next month, but you are still going to be in this business 6 months from now, 12 months from now, and what you do now is going to affect what you get then. So just understanding that, and once you start to see, again, through the consistency and giving it enough time, you start to see that pay off. It keeps you going, and then it compounds.
Yep. I love that. I knew the answer was going to be that way. That's why I didn't feel like I was putting you on the spot.
No,
Um,
I thought you were going to ask me for like how the Tar Heels were going to do this year in basketball, and I'm like, I'm
oh, well,
right now.
yeah. I mean, right now, all the rave and the Tar Heels is what are they going to do in football with Belichick, right? So,
Listen, I'm already moving over football. I'm a basketball girl. So like Belichick's gonna do what he's gonna do. Who knows? It'll be an interesting season.
well, I think I have my Tar Heel colors going today for you.
I saw that. I noticed that. Thanks for the nod.
Right. Rebecca, thank you so much as
Thank you.
always. Audience, thank you guys for joining. Come back next Friday for the next episode of Loan Officer Life. You can also check us out every Saturday morning, 9:30 Eastern on LinkedIn. And anywhere you get your podcasts is where you're going to find this lovely podcast. Thanks again, Rebecca.
Thanks.